The valley was a very relaxed valley, and then after the first attack, things changed a bit, but you never really thought, well, this is going to be a continuous thing. It wasn't that long after another attack happened, and then we realized there was more to it than just a one-off attack.
We knew he was in the valley, Hansie Mowers, because he had been sighted. It was a very difficult time for us because we were all in a way held, terrorized by him in various degrees, and it was like living in a state of emergency for a couple of years.
Every night that they went to bed, they had to double lock all their doors and windows, and so there was a lot of fear in the area.
An incident would happen and the police would arrive on the scene and the person would just disappear. And the next minute you'd hear helicopters screaming around and they'd find nothing.
We were all on tenterhooks with our own safety, and suddenly Rensie went missing.
The Yamala Valley, which means heaven and earth, is a beautiful farming community, approximately 90 square kilometers in size. It lies between the towns of Caledon and Hermanus, and it's approximately 150 kilometers from Cape Town. It is in this area where Johannes Mowers, with the nicknames of Hansie or Johannes, conducted his reign of terror.
His step-parents were working on the farm, and Hansie was a youngster that was going to school. And then when he dropped out of school, he actually worked on the farm for me. He must have been about 16 when he first started working on the farm. And he was a bright youngster. He was very quick to learn. He knew what was going on. He was always a step ahead of everybody else. No, I've known Hansie for a long time. You used to hear stories, oh, he attacked this girl, or he did this there, and then charges were never laid, and it used to fall away. And we had an incident once on the farm where his girlfriend, Rose, had lived in the house with him. She came running up to us one night and said to me, Hansie's taken them all hostage in the house, and he's got a gun, and he's got all of that. So I've called the police, and then we came and we met, and they circled the house, and they called him, and eventually he walked out. And it was a toy gun he had. And he just laughed at them. And he held this plastic toy gun in front of him. He played games with the police that night.
Het was op een vrijdag, die school gesloten, heeft de politie naar die school toegekomen. Wij hebben het papier afgegeven met die persoon zijn gezicht op. En voor die juffrouw, voor die principaal verduidelijk dat zij voor ons moet vertellen wat aangaan. En toen die politieman gereden, toen zij voor ons allemaal bij elkaar geroepen. Ze heeft voor ons die papier geweest en voor ons gezegd, we moeten voorzichtig wees oor die naweek. Ze niet bij rondlopen, van daar is een man buiten, dat is bijgevaarlijk. Ons allemaal het geslapen. Toen was er een klop aan die deur. En ik het wakker geschrokken bij die klop. En mijn stiefpa had opgestaan. En mijn stiefpa had die deur opgemaakt. Toen mijn stiefpa gezien dat hij een klaaf om zijn gezicht heeft. En mijn stiefpa had probeerd die deur toestoot. Maar hij was meer sterker als. En hij zei, ja, aftaan zijn hij was klaar binnen in huis. Mijn stiefpa had van me gezegd, ik kan alles vatten, ik kan alles krijgen, maar je moet net wel ziek maken. Toen hij net gezegd, hij heeft gekomen om goed te vatten, hij heeft gekomen om die man ziek te maken. Toen mijn stiefpa van me gezegd, maar mijn stiefpa ken hem. En hij heeft net mijn stiefpa gekeken. Vraag mijn ma van wat wil hij. Toen hij van mij zien, toen zei van mijn ma dat ik moet voor hem gaan wijzen waar zij stiefpa blij. En voor mijn ma zei, ga mij weer terugbrengen. veilig terugbring, maar of je te waren niet. Toen ons uit bij de dieren is, met Mowers die dier gestaan en ik was bang.
Ik was hartstikke en bij bang geweest. Ik had voor hem gezegd, nou, dat blijft mijn kind terugbrengen. Toen hij bij praat voor een kan. Hij zei toen, ons moet niet eens blij, ons moet niet komen. Ons moet nog niet onder de kooi liggen. Toen ons nog weer uitkijkt, toen gaat hij ja, boer mee is me naar. Die pad me naar. Toen hij niet weer teruggekomen, ik kan toen mijn man plaats toe. Toen hij was zijn maar, dat hij mam de politie laat komen. Maar die politie aankomt, toen hij weg, toen hij gewoon weg met Rensie.
Toen was het gelopen en toen was bij het draad komen. Toen heeft hij aan mijn arm gevat en ik aan mijn arm vastgehouden en toen was het gelopen. En toen was het gelopen. Toen ik weer dus ik kaalvoeten, was het boorden die gelopen en was het posten die gelopen. Toen was bij het draad komen, heeft hij die bij de klaar van zijn kop afgehaald en het om mijn kop gezet. Toen heb ik gezegd, ik mag eens zien waar ik loop. En al wat ik gevoeld heb, dat ik tegen het draad geklimmerd en over stomp en takken gelopen. Toen ons bij die plek, toen hij die bij de klaar afhaal, toen heb ik gezien, ik is in het bos. En ik heb hem gevraagd of hij hier blij. Hij had niks gezegd niet. Toen haal hij het tak weg. En gezegd, ik moet ingaan. Toen ik binnenkom, toen zie ik die meisje binnen liggen. Ik heb hem gevraagd of dat zijn dochtertje is en hij heeft gezegd ja.
The family immediately identified him as Johannes Mowers. We immediately started following tracks from the place where Rensie was kidnapped. I led a 10-member team. We did inquiries at neighboring houses in the area to see whether we can get any information. And we also had roadblocks throughout that whole day and the night until the next morning at 7 o'clock.
Every time when he was on the run, when they thought they had him and they were chasing him, he would cross the river. And he used the water courses always. He crossed the river and the dogs couldn't follow it any further because he'd been in water.
I can recall one search operation we had in this area where we were a 75-strong team of police members, excluding farm workers and farm owners that assisted us. And what we basically did is try to move in one straight line from this area towards that side.
We lined up, and I think at intervals of about 5 or 6 meters along the top along the road there. And then on each side of the valley, there was a group, and this side a group. And they walked this way, and the group that side from the road walked down through the valley, across the river, and up the other side to the base of the mountain.
But the vegetation was so dense at that stage that it was basically impossible to penetrate.
There were times at night, we used to have a boerboel that we used to let out at night that ran around the house. And if she went really mad at night, the Jack Russells in the house used to go frantic. And there were a number of occasions where I used to go outside and she'd be absolutely going mad. She'd be frothing. I knew also in my head, it's him walking around the house looking in to see what's going on. I think there were on occasions he actually said to the police on a phone, I'm watching you and you won't find me. Everybody was in fear of him. And he was a one-man running the show. He actually controlled this valley. For 3 years, he controlled this valley.
This was a series of such violent crimes that Captain Kenneth Speed, a seasoned detective from the Provincial Serious and Violent Crimes Unit, was sent to the area to assist us in the investigation of cases.
Achterna had hij begint te dronken raken en voor mij gevraagd dat ik weet wie hij is. En ik heb in mijn gedachten ik gedacht, ik weet wie hij is en ik kan dan zijn gezicht gezien het. En achterna had hij voor mij gevraagd of ik bang is voor hem. En ik heb voor hem gezegd nee. En achterna had hij voor mezelf gezegd dat hij Hansie Mowers is. En achterna had ik voor mezelf gedacht, maar dat is die man op die foto wat die politieman gewoon. Hij heeft een ochtend wakker geschrokken en voor mij wakker gemaakt en mijn hand gevat. En ik heb gedacht, hoe kom vat in mijn hand? Ik heb op mijn nek gekeken en het was mijn verjaarsdag geweest. En toen word ik 13 en ik heb hem gevraagd, hoe vat in mijn hand? En hij heeft van mij gevraagd, weet je niet dat hij vandaag verjaardag en ik heb op mijn nek gekeken. Hij heeft altijd van mij gezegd, hoe was ik in huis? En hij heeft gezegd, hoe was ik met mijn malen? En ik heb hem gevraagd hoe hij al die goed weet. En hij is gezegd, me heel tijd opgehouden. Omdat ons huis is op die plaatsjes. Weg van die plaats af. En in het begin heb ik van mij gevraagd, wanneer gaat hij mijn huis toe nemen? En hij heeft elke keer gezegd, die volgende dag. En was die volgende dag gekomen, dat ik hem weer gevraagd. En had hij hetzelfde antwoord. Ik heb begin minder gevraagd. Ik heb geweten dat ik elke keer dezelfde antwoord kreeg. En het betekent als ik meer gevraagd heb, zal hij altijd van mij, zal hij inkomen en misschien van mij aan mijn nek grijpen of hij zal mij een klap geven. En van mij zei ik moet opofferen. En ik was bang en ik heb begin te huilen. En ik heb hem gevraagd, zo ga ik in mijn huis doen? En hij heeft gezegd, nee, ik blij nou bij hem. S'avonds ons gaat slapen, had ik altijd mijn oor toegemaakt en gebed, gevraagd die jou mij veilig houden. En dat ik één dag hoop om mijn familie te zien weer. En hij begint te achterkom ik vooral niet meer nie. En hij van mij begint te vragen of ik meer mijn ma, mijn ouders meer verlangen. En ik heb voor hem begint te liggen en zei, ja, ik denk jullie zoek meer naar mij nie. En hij gewoon geraakt aan en hij meer met mij zijn huisvrouw gemaakt. Hij begint voor mij te slaan, oog in oog. Ik heb net gaan doen wat hij gezegd en stilgehouden. En hij heeft meestal die mest in mijn nek gehouden. Dus. Hij heeft mijn kleren van mijn leven afgesneden. En ik heb voor een hele week kaal gezet, zo in de kleren. Hij heeft de sigaret aan die brand gemaakt, het uitgeroken in de helfte. Toen ik alleen slaap en toen hij mijn broek afgetrekt en mij gebrand met die sigaret aankant. Hij heeft gezegd, ik moet niet denken aan hem proberen om weg te achterlopen, want ik moet aan mijn familie denken. Hij was bij waar. Hij was soms zo laat net als hij misschien iets verkeerd gedaan had. Of ze heeft een groot geraas gemaakt dat ze alleen vaart slaan om te zeggen ze moet stil blijven, ze moet niet dat doen. Nie. En in het begin, toen zei papa vraag wie is ik? Ik heb papa gezegd ik is Rensie en ze heeft papa gevraagd wat maak ik aan is. In het begin het was bij vastgezet, dus meer bekleding. Ons weet elkaar gekend, waar ze van mij gekend en in het begin het was als een paar meer geslaten, dat zit ook altijd de oude ingezet. En achterna zit het afgeleerd en nu is het weer meer gepraat. In het begin het ik geweten of ik van hem bedoel of niet, want ze is bij wild. En toe ek vir hom vra hoe oud sy was en hy het gesê sy is 2 toe ek gedink sy is meer amper net soos 'n baba, is klein en ek het begin van haar begin te hou, ek het vir haar begin te kreesgoed begin te leeg en ek het haar hare gekam en ons het begin meer connect met mekaar en agterna het sy meer van my begin te hou.
There was one old man that worked on this farm, and he lived in a cottage quite close to where the river was, but every evening he used to go to town. He used to go into town and he used to come back and he used to buy the Johannes Times when it came out, and he'd buy cooking oil sometimes or little bits of this or that, and he'd come back here. Okay, you don't put 2 and 2 together and think, but I always used to wonder, because he wasn't the brightest person, how was he reading the Johannes Times?
Die persoon het 'n vlieg afgegee en het uitgegaan en hy het net altyd gepraat saam met die persoon, maar kan nie gehoor het wat hy sê nie. En hy het net gesê dankie en dan het hy dat hy altyd ingekom in die spaarsakkie. En was die brood en die koekies en die belounie en die son.
Hansie would read about himself in the paper, and I think that fueled him even more because it was the game.
Hy was nie verbaas of skrikkerig of bangerig en meer gelag oor in die koerant neergesit. En het net gesê die mense kan 'n klomp goed praat wat is waar is. En dan sal hy altyd lag of hy sal net sy kop skud. In die begin het hy net kos ingebring. Wat klaar gaar is, wat ons net kan geëet het. Hy het meer alcohol gebring, hij was meer alcohol betekend als kos. En elke keer als hij gedronken moest ik samen met hem gedronken. En als hij dronk was hij bij hem beskof, kwaad. En hij had zich kwaad, gaat om mij eten, hij voor mij slaan of... Als hij nuchter raakt en dan zal hij mijn vrouw gelijk ik zo. En dan zal zijn meisjekind voor hem zeggen dat hij dat gaat doen. En dan zal hij verschoning vragen, maar als hij elke keer dat doen, hij het niet weer oor. Die meer uitgegaan soos hy altyd uitgegaan het, het altyd 'n dag geskip. Het altyd 'n verskoning gehad, gesê hy is moeg of daar is genoeg kos, ons kan aangaan met hy en hy sal die volgende dag, die volgende aand weer uitgaan.
But I think he was handicapped a bit by having the 2 kids with him. It wasn't so easy to move he would have to find another place that was completely secluded and quiet to put the 2 kids at.
En wanneer die kos begin te skaars raak, het hy altyd 'n bietjie gebring, daar was dit altyd net vir die meisie en meestal het ons altyd sekerwater gedrink.
David had a bulldozer and he was clearing bush, and the bulldozer was getting closer and closer and closer. So thank goodness this happened, because otherwise it could have been a disaster for all of them.
In clearing the land, I had a very strong feeling that I was going to flush him out.
Sy meisiekind 'n bietjie siek geraak, van haar was die vastige kos daar by ons en was in meestal sekerwater en slakke geëet. En hy gesê, dis al wat ek kon gekry en hy het vir my gevra of ek vir hom die apie doppe moet afhaal en hy het dit begin te kook. So was het geëet, maar die meisiekind het 'n bietjie siek geraak en achterna het ons meestal sekerwater die hele week gedrink. Hy het uitgegaan die Saterdag aand en het weer teruggekom.
Hij heeft altijd samen met ons gestapt, met ons dorp gestapt en zo, daar stap hij samen. En ons geniet het samen en ons komt weer terug en genieten die zo. En uit alle die boeren bij ons rondgelopen. En zondag was hij ook altijd bij ons en zo. En daar was hij een baie goede klonk geweest. Daar was hij fout bij hem geweest. Maar ons kan niet denken hoe hij zo geworden is. Die politie heeft eigenlijk voor ons gezegd, dat hulle zoek voor hem oor die beetje dat hij achtergevaren heeft. En toen die politie ons gezegd, maar ons willen met hem nou helpen. Ja, toen het ons gehelpen kijken en toen. En ons heeft hem altijd maar zo'n nieuwsgierigheid gezien. En dan raak hij weer al verdoen, zoals een kat of zo'n hondje.
One of the biggest challenges that we faced during the search for Mowers in the area was that the local farming community did not believe that the Mowers that they knew was able to commit the crimes that we assigned to him, because they felt that he was a very nice person.
Alle nog die eerste keer voor ons zeggen, maar de tweede keer dus helemaal daar schreeuwen. Ook moest met die haap zoeken, in nacht iemand aan moekerij. Dat is aan nacht. 2 uur en ook 1 uur. Wat anders bij ons huis gekomen. En hij trok klop aan die deur, iets maar die deur opmaken. En toen klopte hij aan die venster. En toen zei hij, hij die venster voor hem opmaken. Maar toen had hij hem stukken geslaan. En hij is aangekomen. En hij heeft gevraagd, maar toen had hij gevraagd een dop of ja. En toen dacht ik voor hem, gezegd, maar ook hij heeft voor hem wijn. Toen ben ik naar de klerenkast gegaan en dan heb ik die papzakjes zullen ze uithalen. En ik heb het voor hem gegooid. Ik heb hem 3 doppen uit elkaar gegooid. Maar ik denk, hij heeft allemaal de dop ook aangehad toen hij gekomen. En toen heeft hij zo lekker aan die type. Toen nog gelopen over die dier en ik had gezegd, die dier op mij oppakken. En hij die dier op mij opgemaakt en ik had graag gelopen. Bij die plaats aangekomen. Ik heb met jullie gezegd, maar anders is het aan mij iets. Maar hij type nodig, die politie bel. Toen heeft hij nou.
On the 4th of March 2007, when he was caught by local farm workers on a nearby farm here in the area, I was told that a scuffle broke out. He tried to run away and they prevented him from running away. And as a result of that, he was assaulted.
Die tijd, want ik ga eigenlijk op het plaats toe. En na die tijd is mijn broers ook gekomen. En toen ons nog teruggaan naar de huis toe, toen zullen we ons zien, maar mijn broers is hier. En die plek ligt nog een bloedtoetel nog eens gelanderd.
There was a reward of 100,000 rand that was put out for information that would lead to the arrest of Mowers. And that was paid out to different members of the community.
When we arrived at the hospital, I went through to the ward where he was being treated and I recognized him immediately. I mean, this was a guy that we've been looking for months, if not years, and I'd put up several wanted posters with his face on it, so when I saw him, I knew this was the guy we've been looking for. After he was discharged, we escorted him to a waiting police vehicle. And he indicated to us that we need to drive through to the Yamala Valley, to a particular farm, where he would show us where Rensie was. When we got to the farm, he gave us an indication of where we should start looking. He mentioned a fallen tree, and approximately 80 meters before it, across a little stream, we should find the entrance to a hole where the 2 girls were. And at that stage, I was only aware of Rensie that we were looking for. At that stage, the news of 2 girls was news to me. He explained it was his daughter, Eunicia Davids, who was with Rensie in the hole. We used the directions that he'd given us, and we formed a small search party, and we located the area in which he had indicated to us, and we began to search it. But after about 15-20 minutes, we couldn't find the entrance to this underground hole. He was adamant that the girls were alive. I believed that he was telling me the truth. What was difficult was to make sense of what he was actually saying, that there were 2 girls alive, particularly Rensie after 18 months being missing. And secondly, his daughter was with her, and she would have been about 4 years at that stage, living underground in a man-made shelter.
I'm so busy here.
From where he was sitting in the bakkie, he indicated to us a much smaller search area of thick bush. And he said to us, they are there in that area. And while we were looking, we shouted out Rensie's name, informing her that we were the police, it was safe, she could come out, but nobody said anything and nobody surfaced. Mowers then said to us what we must look for is a black backdrop to the bushes, indicating this is the entrance. So we would have to actually not look at the bushes, but look through the bushes and see whether it looked like the terrain or whether there was something missing, a black spot. And that's when I found the entrance to the hole. I couldn't see anything, it was black. And I slid myself down and I called into the hole and I called out to Rensie and I heard nothing. I called out again and there was no response that I could hear from anybody inside.
Ons het begin te stem hoog en sy het gesê sy pa en ek het gesê die mense wat hier buite rondloop en so meerder het hier geraas gegaan en die gelopery en was te bang om uit te kyk en ons het begin te stem hoog en een stem het gesê maar is niks hier nie en die ander stem het gesê dat hulle moet hom bring.
Director Veery then made a decision that maybe if Mowers called out Rensie's name, she would then realize that he was with us and perhaps that she would then be in a position to leave the hole with his permission, so to speak. We felt at that stage he had such a psychological hold on both girls that they felt they would need his permission to leave the hole.
Toe die tak geskuif en omdat wat dan afgekom en die persoon het my naam gesê ek moet uitkom, ek is veilig, hulle het hom gevang.
Mowers called out her name as well, and between the two of us calling out her name, I heard whispers coming from inside this hole, this black space. And I thought my initial impression was that there was more than one person in the hole and they were communicating with each other so that I couldn't hear what was being said. But after I called Rensie's name out again and again and Mowers called out her name, the whispers I was hearing was actually a response from Rensie. She was actually answering me, but she was answering in a whisper. So I said to her, Rensie, please would you move closer to the entrance because I actually can't see you. Just move closer so that I can see you and then we can talk to each other. And as I was looking at this entrance, I saw a pair of feet at the entrance, and then moments later, a smaller pair of feet in between. So it was actually Rensie sliding forward on a bottom, basically, with the little girl in between. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, I didn't expect, first of all, to find Rensie, and to find her alive with Mowers' daughter was just something that I didn't even conceive of.
Toe het hulle gevra waar nog een by my is, toe het ek gesê ja, die is die meisiekind. En toe gesê ek moet na aangee, maar sy wou nie uitgegaan het die. En toe het hulle haar pa gebring en uitgepraat en sy uitgegaan en toe sy uitgaan toe gryp hulle.
Eunice was so terrified. She didn't want to come out. I actually had to reach forward and grab hold of her little arm and pull her, kicking and screaming basically, out of this hole. She didn't want to come out. So I grabbed hold of her and then I slid myself on my stomach backwards out of the entrance. At that stage, I wanted to focus now on Rensie, so I took Eunice and I don't even know who I passed her to. I just turned around and I passed her to somebody, and I then slid down again to the entrance, and I reached into the entrance to Rensie and I asked her to give me her hand so that I could help her out. And she said to me she can't come out. And I said, but, you know, I'm here to help you. Just pass me your hand and I will help you out. And she said, I don't have any pants on. She said to me, there are no pants in this man-made shelter for me to put on, so I can't come out. And it only occurred to me later that that would have been one of the reasons that he used to keep them, you know, underground. She wouldn't have been willing to leave the whole, you know, partially unclothed.
En toe hulle gesê ek moet kom, toe ek veral of ek enige klere aan my lyf het, toe ek gesê ek het net 'n sweater en ek was in my onderklere.
It was raining and I had quite a nice overcoat on, and I slid out and I took that off.
En die speler het sy jacket vir my gegee. En toe ek uitgekom.
And I grabbed hold of her hand and I helped her out. I can't tell you what that was like. I mean, I've never experienced anything like that before, so I can't actually even put it into words.
Die lig was 'n bietjie te skerp vir my oë. Ek het 'n bietjie gefaint en hulle het my gevra of ons geëet het vir die week en ek het gesê nee, ons het nog niks geëet nie en hulle het vir ons begin te toebroodjies gee en sap en ons het begin te eet en hulle het vir my gevra hoe voel ek nou? Ek gesê ek het 'n bietjie bitter, ek voel 'n bietjie bitter.
We arranged for the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit to come and collect the 2 girls and make sure they received a proper medical assessment and counselling for what they've gone through.
Ek was bly dat ek die buitelug weer gesien het en ek het geweet dat ek gaan my familie weer sien.
I needed to make sure that there was nobody else inside this underground man-made shelter. So I slid into the hole. Basically what I found was a structure approximately 2 meters deep by about 2.5 to 3 meters wide. Inside was a mattress on a base constructed of branches lashed together. The interior of the shelter was constructed of the same materials of branches and lashed together, lined with large animal feed bags. The roof was constructed of corrugated iron. It was covered in basically the vegetation surrounding the shelter, so it blended in completely. You wouldn't have been able to know that there was such a shelter underneath it. He had a table, wooden table. On the table he had a stove connected to a gas bottle with cooking oil and various other cooking material you would associate with a kitchen. On the mattress was some duvets, some blankets, and then there were also various child's toys and child's clothing, showing that there were 2 girls living in there for quite a long time.
That particular weekend when Hansie was arrested on the Sunday morning, on the Friday, the operator had gone home. If the operator had stayed, he would have gone into where their underground dugout was. He would have hit that by Sunday. And I think at that stage, I think Hansie realized Monday came, the operator would have started Monday. By Tuesday, he would have had to have been out of there, or they would have all been, because I was cleaning the embankments and everything. So the actual excavator, his bucket would have gone through that little roof structure that they had built there.
Either they were so strongly under his influence that they would have remained in this particular shelter underground until their demise, or their survival instinct would have kicked in and they would have left the shelter. You know, one wonders whether she would have been able to find help in that condition. I think the main driving factor in assisting us was the fact that his daughter was in the shelter and he was acting as a father to her rather than acting in the best interests of Rensie.
I just remember when David phoned me to tell me that the girls had been discovered, and I was just absolutely shocked that we'd been living and working so close by and had no idea what was happening. And I remember taking my dogs for a walk, actually, and it just hit me that I'm going to do something for these girls. I just had to do it. So I immediately phoned Detective Speed, and I said, this is what I'm going to do, and what should we call this fund? And he said something like whispering in the dark. So I thought about it and I said the Whisper Fund, and that was the beginning of the Whisper Fund. I went through to Cape Town about a week later to their place of safety and met them there. They were obviously looking a little bit better and had put on a bit of weight, and so, but very emotional, and just, I was happy to meet them and just happy that they were out, and just nice to spend time with them and getting to know them, and that was the beginning of many, many years of being with them. They used to come and have holidays and weekends with me together, and we used to go on walks and things like that.
Toe was ons op pad na die plaas toe. Ek het vir haar gesê sy moet stop. En sy het gevra hoekom, toe ek het vir haar gesê dat sy moet vir my na die gat toe neem. En ek het die Gerard gesien hoe lyk het waar ek was. En sy het vir my gevra as ek seker dat ek so toe gaan, toe het ek gesê ja.
We had a walk down. It was still reasonably intact because it was quite soon after the investigation.
En ek het net daar gestaan. En ek het vir myself gedink, hoe kan 'n man 'n jong meisie in so 'n plek hou? Dat hy nie hart gehad nie, of het hy nie gedink nie.
And Rensie sat for some time and contemplated, and I think it was a good thing that she went back.
Toe ek vir myself gedink dat ek gaan nie laat wat met my gebeur het, ek gaan nie laat my terughou nie. Ek gaan vorentoe.
I think her time in the hole was obviously a time of terrible fear. But she just seems to philosophically to have accepted that it's something that happened in her life, and she's profound. She's an amazing person.
Ek het meeste van die skoolvakansie na my maale toe gekom. Het was anderste vir my om terug te wees op die plaas, om my niggies en my vriende weer te sien. En almal was bly om vir my te sien. So meer ek nader gekom het, so meer het ek besluit dat is hier wat ek wil wees.
We're looking to adopt a younger child, and we went to a children's home. And they said, well, they've got this 6-year-old girl, would we like to meet her? So we said yes. She just took to us like you couldn't believe. She climbed all over us. She was just, you could see she was the type of child that just wanted affection and love and was all over the place. She just wanted to learn. She wanted to touch. She wanted to feel. She wanted to do so much. We always refer to her as like the wild child. She would run everywhere. She wouldn't walk. She would be sort of slightly crouched. We fostered her for about a year before she came to live with us full time. Initially, they said to us that she was a big news case, and that if we, knew the story, we would know immediately who she was. And then about 6 months into the fostering, they called us in and said to us, right, they're going to tell us her whole history. And of course, as soon as they mentioned it, we knew immediately. The scary thing was they turned around and said, well, now that you know her history, do you still want her? And it was a case of, well, she was not to blame. It wasn't her that did it. And I said, of course, we love her. It was quite mind-blowing that this little girl that we had in our home had so much history behind her. We were discussing issues around her father, that her father was in jail. So she then asked, why was he in jail? So we said, well, he was in for rape. And I then explained to her what rape is, that it's when a man forces sex on a woman. And we explained to her that it was a whole control power thing. I went on to tell her that we suspected that something had happened to her mother because of him, and that he needed someone then to look after Nina, that he went and kidnapped this little girl and kept the two of them in the hole. I went on to tell her that he used to sexually abuse and rape Rensie, and that, you know, despite all of that, Rensie still loved her and looked after her, and yeah, that it was what Rensie had been through, we can only but imagine. And I remember Nina, because Nina was sitting on the floor looking up at me when I was telling her that, and Nina's face was just like one of absolute horror. That, and her first thing was that, how could he do such a thing, Mom? How could he hurt someone like that?
I was shocked with things that Rensie had been through and gone through. I still don't understand why he did that type of stuff and why is he so mean.
Nina was very curious as to Rensie's role once she found out. So I phoned Jenny and I asked Jenny if we could come through, meet with Rensie. And then we just let the two of them be. I mean, they went off, they went for a walk where she asked Rensie all her questions. And I think Rensie was fascinated how Nina had grown and developed and, you know, so different to how she remembered her when she was little.
I asked her, like, how was it in the hole and how she felt, and if my dad had she did any bad things to her, like hit her, and she said that she hit her and there's still some scars left.
Ze was eerst een beetje skaam voor mij geweest. In het begin had ze van mij gevraagd van hoe was papa en ik heb haar verteld. En ze heeft voor mij gevraagd of ik me zeer gemaakt heb en ik heb haar gezegd. En haar gezicht was een beetje anders. En wat ze gevraagd dat hoe kan dat maar met zo'n persoon die elkaar geweest is.
We asked her, you know, what sort of questions did she ask? And her first thing was about her mother. Does Rensie remember anything to do with the mother? And Rensie said to Nina that when she used to bring it up with Hansie, Hansie would beat her. So she got to a point where she just didn't ask questions about Nina's mother at all anymore. The fact that when they came out, they spoke in whispers. That shows you what a controlling man he was. And I've tried to explain this to Nina, that rape is all about control. It's about power. It's about having control over your victim. And I said that's where her and Rensie were his victims, because he had that control over them.
I suppose he controlled everything that they weren't allowed to do. They weren't allowed to go out of the hole. They weren't allowed to speak. They had their own sort of language when they came out of the hole. They weren't running properly. When we got Nina, she would run hunched over.
On Nina's birth certificate, it says Eunicia Davids, daughter of Katrina Davids and biological father Hansie Mowers. But Nina has decided to change her name. She has decided to call herself Nina. Well, she has from the start when she came to live with us. So now she has formally adopted the name Nina.
There were in total 41 charges put against Mowers during his trial in the High Court in Cape Town. He pleaded guilty on 28 of these charges and was sentenced to life imprisonment plus another 211 years. In my personal opinion, somebody who committed so many rape cases is a serial rapist. Although, because he pleaded guilty, he was never psychologically assessed.
As far as showing remorse for the crimes that he had perpetrated over 3 years, the pain that he had caused each and every one of those complainants, I found no indications of remorse at any stage in my dealings with him.
He was on the front page of newspapers. I think he was in places he wanted to be. If you really think about it, he controlled the valley, he raped women, he controlled the police force. In one case, he phoned the police and he said, I've done this, I've raped a person and I've left a brick in the road or a brick to mark the spot. He wanted them to know, and for them to know that they can't catch him, because he was a step ahead of them.
Toen ik voor een week bij Jenny gaat blijven en ze het voor mij begint te vragen, toen ik van gezegd, ik zou lijken om mijn kinders te werken, want dat is mijn droom om anderen te helpen. Wat misschien wat ik kon gehad, of wat misschien zoals kinders op je straat, zoals kinders in je kinderhuis. Ik wil meer mijn kleinkindertjes wat problemen hebben, wat misschien in je huis. En wat afvoel, wat meer zeer aan hulle self wil doen.
She's a very responsible person and she's very philosophical and she just wants to help other people and yeah, she's amazing. She's in a very good space. She's got a wonderful partner and just had a baby girl and back with her family and her friends and people on the farm and she's content. Yeah, lovely to see.
Nee, ek het bybly pachte. Maar sy het vir my gevra, mami, of ek mag 'n kerel kan in my lewe. Dus sê ek, ja, my kind, as jy so voel, en hy is goed vir jou, as jy mag. As jy mag voor na hom kyk. Hy weet wat my na gebeur het, by lief vir haar.
Ik voel mij gelukkig. Ik is blij dat ik probeer om een maat te wees en ik kan niet voor meer vragen.
Nina has always said that she doesn't have any conscious memory of her time in the hole. But I think subconsciously there are definitely areas of her life that have been affected from her time underground.
She most certainly does have memories of the way she treated her in the hole subconsciously. I mean, those would be there, although we're trying to figure out how much she actually does remember from the time in the hole.
I do have fear, and I do have nightmares about him, that he's going to come and get me and take me away from this home.
She is very scared of the dark. She's been with us for 6 years and the duvet's still over the head, you know, and we've tried to explain to her that she's safe here. We won't let anything happen to her.
Initially, when Nina came through to us, there was this almost a lack of trust with myself and her. She would be very defiant. It was really hard to try and just to say to her what family life should be. You know, how you put together a family, the roles of the parents, and if you are moaned at or shouted at, that's part of family life. It doesn't mean we don't love you, we still love you.
And 1 and 2, lift 3, 4, slowly 5 and 6.
She loves to run. She will do cross country. She, long distance, brilliant runner. She won numerous cups at athletic meets at school and netball star player.
7, 8, 9, 1.
I do ballet and modern. I started modern the beginning of this year, and I was dancing in a big concert in March at the Baxter for 4 days.
So she has just blossomed academically. She's just gone from strength to strength, and it's coming from her, where she just wants to do well. She wants to excel.
We had a very nice time last year when Rensie turned 21. We had a lovely celebration in a restaurant in Johannes and Ken Speed came through and Nina, and it was just so special to see everybody.
I'm like a very indoor girl. And like, I hate snails and I hate all the other animals and chungulalos. I like don't go near them at all. It's like if I see one like even like a mile away, I just like won't go near that area at all. I'll just like stay in my bedroom and won't come out. You do any sports at school? I do running because I'm a very good runner. And then I do netball. And then I also do dancing. And then I used to do clarinet. Did you do any sport at school?
Yes, but not at the school I went. The one in Vliesdorp, I used to do running.
Oh, same as me. And were you a very good runner?
Yes.
And how did it feel to be on the farm?
It's nice, like used to when I was on the farm before this all happened.
Please. Don't bite me. Okay. Wow. Come on, you have to like me. Please.
I think they'll both grow obviously in completely different ways because they're living completely different lives, but we'll make sure that they always keep in contact with each other because it's just important for both of them, yeah.